Hey everyone, Ezor here, and this video will be the first of a multi-part series for the game Farm Together. Plan on doing quite a bit for this game, just kind of explaining in detail how to really play it, how to really get the most for your bang for your buck, so to speak, and great ways to farm metals, diamonds, and gold. All that being said, this will be the first video in that series, so if you have played for more than, I'd say, 10 or 15 hours, go ahead and click on the annotation up above. First and foremost, after starting off in the game, you will need to choose what type of land you will want to have. There's a couple of different versions you can do. You can do the regular one, which has a little mix of everything. You have the steep version, which has more inclines and hills. You have a water one, which has a lot of rivers and just water all along the way. And then you have the flat terrain. Honestly, I don't know if this flat one was available at the start or if you need to unlock it, but I would highly recommend either doing the regular or the flat. Side note, the flat is technically a hard mode in the fact that you get less money and experience, but honestly, if you start playing on it, you won't really notice the difference. And I especially recommend starting on flat if you have any kind of organizational OCD like I do. Once you choose the area you'd like to start in, then you start the game. I would recommend going through the tutorial just because it does explain quite a few things in there, just general tips and tricks as to how the game starts and everything like that. Just in case you decide to skip it or you turn it off, I'll go over a basic rundown of things here. There's going to be a button that allows you to run. If you hold down the trigger, you will go a lot faster. There'll be a button that pulls up your whole map. You'll be able to see exactly what you've unlocked. There's going to be a button that controls the zoom on the camera. If you press your back button or your select button, depending on which controller you're using, that one will bring up your current inventory for your farm. I'll get into that here in a little bit. And then start will obviously pause the game, which will end up bringing up a bigger section as well as your options. Now all your buttons will be clearly displayed at the very bottom right hand of the screen. What does what? They all kind of change based on what you're doing. Now you have a general idea of the game. We'll go ahead and get into what you actually do with it. Obviously it's a farming simulator, so you mainly just farm. The bread and butter of this game is going to be planting and harvesting crops. If you walk over a unplowed piece of land and press A, you will actually plow it. It does cost money to plow and clear the land, so keep that in mind. You do need 10 gold per square in order to do anything. Next up, once it's plowed, you can go ahead and plant any kind of crop in the said area. Now you do need to start paying attention at the upper right hand part of the screen because it'll show you what season it is, and that'll affect what crops can be planted. Some crops like lettuce and potatoes can be planted all year round, so it doesn't matter what season it is, whereas other ones, like for example cauliflower, can only be planted in the fall. This is important because there are some crops that are a little bit better for making money and for just general experience, I guess you could say, and you definitely want to pay attention to what ones you can plant when, and you kind of time those out. For the most part, at the very beginning of the game, I would recommend just planting as much as you can for what you have for money. There's no real, hey, this crop is better than others. I personally prefer carrots just because they, in the end, they do kind of, in my eyes, make a little bit better money value-wise, and you do need to get them to level 20 for another one, which I'll explain here a little bit later. Now, once the crop is planted, it'll take some time for it to be able to be harvested. This depends on each type of crop. For example, lettuce only takes 10 minutes to grow. After 10 minutes of real world time, you can harvest it. You can reduce this time by simply watering the plant. It's a set amount and it only does so much. For example, with lettuce being only 10 minutes, if you water it, it'll only cut off about a minute, minute and a half. Whereas if you plant carrots, which take 20 minutes to grow, it'll usually cut off about 3 minutes. It's not a exact ratio, but every crop does a different version of it. Pumpkins, for example, take 2 full days to grow. If you do water them, it cuts down 6 hours of growth. So that's kind of the crops explained. Like I said, they all kind of do their own thing. You just have to pay attention to what the time is, what season it is, how long it'll take, and then water them to cut down the time. Pro tip, I would definitely recommend growing everything in a 3x3 grid for when you get your tractor a little bit later, because hands down that will speed up a lot of things. Now I talked about crops. There's a lot of other ways to make money in this game. One other one that's very, very efficient is going to be trees. If you plant any kind of tree, it's not always a fruit tree. Sometimes they grow nuts or money, I guess. There's a money tree. They'll only produce fruit on certain seasons. So there too, you need to pay attention to what season it is. They always become harvestable at the beginning of each season. So every 17 minutes, which is one season in game, you'll be able to harvest them. Apples, for example, harvest every single season, so every single season you can harvest the apples for money. Lemon trees, on the other hand, are only harvestable in the fall, so be wary of that when you first plant them, because you don't want to plant lemon trees in the fall, simply because you won't get your money back for an hour of real life time. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention is that as you harvest crops or trees or anything really, you'll get experience for said item. This is important because as they level up, they will give you more money per harvest. Now, so for some things, it's not such a big deal, like for example crops, because in the end you can clearly see when you plant them how long it'll take and what your profit will be. However, for some things, like trees, they will continuously produce fruit forever. There's no limit to how much they do it, so you have the one-time investment of, let's say, 100 gold for one apple tree, and as you harvest it, it'll give you, at the start, 6 gold back every 17 minutes. Once it levels up to a certain point, it'll start giving you 7 gold from there on out, and then eventually 8, and then eventually 9, so on and so forth. In general, the more money something is worth when you harvest it, the faster it gets extra money from leveling, so keep that in mind. Apple trees, even at level 50, only gave me another 2 to 3 gold from when I originally planted them, so they're not going to be the best moneymaker around. Alright, next up is we're going to talk about animals. Every animal works the same way, tentatively, but they're all a little bit different, just like crops and trees. In the end, you have the initial investment of whatever they're worth. So for example, the leghorn chicken costs 250 gold to buy one. You have to feed it however many times it needs to be fed, and then you get to be able to harvest it. For example, again, leghorn chicken, it costs 20 gold to feed it every 10 minutes. It harvests every 30 minutes, so you need to feed it 60 gold in order to harvest 80 gold from it. I know it's a little confusing, but really in the end, all you have to do is just make sure that they're always fed and they will always be able to be harvested. Now the hiccup with this is that if they ever don't have feed, they will not progress the time and they will actually stop. So you need to make sure that they always have feed. This can be kind of annoying when you log off and come back, just because it'll only run so long for the feed. Alright, so next for sources of income is going to be the tropical fish. Now, just like with animals, there is going to be the initial investment. So it's going to be, for example, the tropical fish will cost 200 gold per spot you place down. And then you have a chance to, every 30 minutes, catch the fish. Now, no matter what, you will always catch a fish every 30 minutes. The difference will be if it's a big catch or a small catch, and that's what the catch rate. So for the tropical fish, if you catch a big catch, it'll be 24 gold. A small catch will be 3 gold. So no matter what, every 30 minutes you will get 3 gold from this fish. But you have a 50% chance to get 24 gold. Now, you can get as many fish as you like, with the exception of the angler, the piranha, and the hammerhead shark. All can be in one pond, and you can literally just keep catching all of the fish from the same pond. So keep that in mind when you're building your fishery. Alright, the last source of income for gold will be flowers. They are a little tricky in order to make the most profit on, so I won't go too in-depth on them. Basically, all you need to know is that no matter what, they will grow at whatever rate they are. So for example, if it says every 2 hours, it'll be every 2 hours. The hiccup with those is that if you don't continuously water them, they don't produce the maximum amount of profit. What I mean by that is that if you have one that grows for 5 hours and you only have it watered for 1 hour, it'll actually have a very reduced profit overall when you harvest it after 5 hours. You'll still be able to get everything at 5 hours, but you won't get as much money. The last major thing I'm going to be covering here in this video is going to be about buildings. Now, the tab after flowers is going to be where you can get kind of different shops and buildings and stuff like that. They all kind of do something different. You have to kind of read what they do. For the most part, the general idea is that they will trade goods from collectibles, like for example fruit or vegetables or honey or whatever, and they'll turn it into gems or metals. This is very important because it also increases your storage limit, as well as gives you diamonds in the end. Since you can't use those ingredients for anything else, it's very important that you get these tradable buildings in, just so you can get these diamonds going. You will need a lot of these throughout the game. They're kind of how you make all your decorations, your roads, stuff like that. I'll be going more in depth into that in the next video, so kind of watch out for that. But for the most part, just make sure to grab them as they pop up. You'll get one pretty much every level up until about level 30 or so, and then the carts kind of start slowing down. That being said, you do get some other things in there, like for example, points of destination, which will let you instantly teleport somewhere from point A to point B basically. Something that increases your storage limit, as well as different houses. Again, all of these will go into more depth in the next video, but the biggest thing is to make sure to grab all of the ones you can trade your tradable goods for diamonds. Pro tip, there is one in there called the wishing well. Make sure to grab a couple of those when you first start. I'd get probably anywhere from 10 to 20 of them, just because you do get money off of those. Every 2 minutes they'll give you 20 gold on the hardest difficulty and I think 25 for normal, so really, really big for starting off early. Alright, now that we've covered a lot of the basic ideas of the gameplay, I'm going to start talking about the tips and tricks for the game. Now, there's really no one vegetable or tree or anything like that that makes you just a boatload of money, especially early. The biggest thing is to kind of just get a little bit of everything from the start, and then kind of go, the more expensive items you start finding, the more money you'll get back, so you kind of just have to slowly but surely build your fortune. That being said, the biggest thing you should do, you should focus on getting everything, like I had said previously in this video, in a 3x3 grid. It'll save you a lot of time for later. Once you get the tractor, the game goes a lot faster. You no longer can go 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. You can do everything in a 3x3 grid as long as you have gas, which is a very, very easy to get later on, so it's a big thing there. Especially when you start off early, it's really, really easy to just make a farm that's too large, and you kind of want to be careful with that, just because if you can't get everything done in one season, or you're not getting everything done and you're just running out of time, that means that your farm is going to be too large just for yourself. If you have friends helping you, cool, awesome, by all means build as large as you want, but if they're not going to be there all the time, or you're not going to always have somebody, then you just have to kind of keep in mind what you're all building. Next up, I would definitely keep some sort of priority going for what you should be getting. A lot of things kind of happen all at once in this game, especially with the seasons change. So I would definitely start off, especially the first 5 hours, 5 to 10 hours or so, really focusing on gathering money from the wells as well as your crops. Trees aren't as big of a deal right when the seasons pop. I would actually get everything else done first, then go pick at the trees. But the very last thing I would do always is going to be water your crops, just because in the end, they're still going to make taking time going through. It's just, you don't need to cut the time down. Also, you want to watch out for your fishing ponds, because if you can gather fish from them, you want to try to get those so they reset the timers, as well as any of the farm animals that you're able to gather, again, resetting the timers. Pro tip, when you harvest any kind of collectible from the animals, make sure that you instantly feed them again, just so that way any money that you gathered goes right back into them. Focus on those quests. You get one right off the bat, and you get a second one, I think like level 3 or 4, maybe 5 at the latest, and you can actually discard one of those a day and refresh it automatically. Kind of take advantage of that depending on what you have on your farm, but definitely focus on trying to get those quest items done, because you'll get medals from them and you'll get a lot of experience. That really helps out. Aside from the seasons changes, also when you're planting crops, keep in mind what you might need for later on. Like for example, you need to get zucchini up to level 8 in order to make yellow zucchini. Yellow zucchini, as of right now, for me, I'm level 17 or 18 on the second farm here. It's very, very profitable, and like I said, there's that level cap, so just kind of keep that in mind, that you do need to kind of level a whole bunch of wide variety of things. Maybe set off a separate plot just for leveling up things that you want to unlock stuff with. So that's about all there is to the game. Starting out, you really should follow this guide pretty well until about high teens, low 20s or so, just because at that point, your priorities should start shifting depending on how much gas you're able to get with your tractor and everything like that. So definitely keep doing this, keep at it, and you'll eventually get to the point where you start refocusing your priorities. With that being said, if you guys have any tips or tricks that I might have missed, or any advice that you think was very important for you when you were starting out, by all means, leave them in the comments down below. Let's just kind of share everything, because this is definitely not the only thing you can do in order to start out with this game. You can do really whatever you want. This is just some tips that I found helpful, but especially with starting my second farm. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you enjoyed the video and helped you out at all, go ahead and give it a like. If you like other video game related content, that's kind of a new, so consider subscribing. Like I said, I am going to have a video series of a whole bunch of different tips and tricks for this game, so if you're looking for something in particular, check out the playlist at the end of it, and see maybe there's something that you have a question about that I've answered. So, thank you all for watching. I've been Ezer, and until next time, keep your story going.